Hey y'all. Okay, let's try this again. I had a little technical difficulties, but we're gonna try again. And I'm gonna try and tag everybody now. Let's see. Hello, 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 everybody. Let's see. Looks like I'm live inside of the group now. That's good. Let me see. So, how is everybody doing? Can you see me? Can you hear me okay? If anybody's there. Let's see. Here we go. I don't know if there's a delay. All right, here we go. I see that it's up now. Beautiful. So how everybody doing today? Today is our Fem Friday PCOS Q&A, and we're going to talk about some interesting things today. So hello again. Thank you for joining me. If you're new to me, my name is Yasmin Minifield. I am a holistic health practitioner. I am a full spectrum doula, so I help with conception all the way through pregnancy and delivery. I really specialize more so in home birth, and I'm very versed in immediate postpartum care, but also long-term postnatal wellness and being able to recover from postnatal depletion if that's something that you're dealing with. So, in addition to my doula work, I consider myself a modern day medicine woman. What does that mean? That means that I look at the entire person when I'm working with you to look at what is the root cause from a physiological, physical standpoint, but also looking at the emotional and the spiritual and the mental to see you as a whole person. And I really enjoy long-term work with my clients. I've had clients sometimes stay with me for 7 years as they just go higher and higher in their wellness, in their journey as a woman. I believe in our innate power as women. So hey y'all, hey, welcome Gabrielle, Tan, welcome. Say hello in the chat if you're with me. So anyway, that's a little bit about who I am. And today we're going to answer some questions that were submitted, and we're going to dive in. Before we get into the questions, I just wanted to start off by saying that I grew up like Seventh-day Adventist. I don't know if y'all familiar with that, but my background is heavy in the church. And then I've evolved, so my views have kind of changed from Seventh-day Adventism. However, some things that stuck with me that will probably never go away is I'm very much a praying woman. And I always seek guidance from God, from the Creator, to ask, what should I be focused on? Where should I be putting my energy? Because I just find that has been the best way to live my life as someone who is in service to other women in their health and their well-being. And so I've been in a lot of prayer lately about how to show up here, what's the best offering to give the women that are in this community that we're building. So one of those is going to be just for women who are going through perimenopause, menopause, ovarian insufficiency, or are in mid or later life and having complications with PCOS. So be on the lookout as I continue to develop and create that community. But if something like that would meet your needs, definitely DM me so I can understand your journey, how I can create this community to meet your needs if you're interested in joining once it starts. So I wanted to put that plug in because it's just been so heavy on my heart and my mind to listen and pray and meditate about the best next steps and how to be here and show up for you all. So again, if that resonates, please let me know. But moving forward, let's talk about these questions. So the first question is, can PCOS lead to ovarian cancer? and elevated CA125 levels. Can PCOS lead to ovarian cancer? I think this is a very valid question, and so I wanted to make sure that my answer is based in the science and what we are seeing, because although I have a very holistic approach, I also believe in an evidence-based approach. We don't want to just throw spaghetti at the wall and like see what sticks. We really want to be targeted. We don't want to try every natural remedy out there. We want to do what works. So I always want to look at what the research is showing us and use that to make informed decisions about my personal care, but also in coaching other women in their health care. So let's talk about it. PCOS is, as we know, an endocrine disorder, and it affects the full body. So we're going to either have polycystic ovaries or elevated androgens. We could have a lack of ovulation. Those are like the three main problems we're going to be dealing with, right? And those three main problems cascade into different symptoms and issues that we then try to treat, but that's still the main issue that is usually caused by elevated androgens, which is your male hormones. And those elevated androgens usually come from insulin resistance, having high inflammation levels throughout your body, being that you may have just come off of birth control pills. And birth control pills can absolutely exaggerate pre-existing PCOS. Or it might be that your adrenal glands are fatigued, your cortisol is spiking, and your adrenal glands are pumping out excess androgens, your male hormones. And so I wanted to make sure we go over that so we're on the same page as we talk about the risk that some of us may be concerned with ovarian cancer. And so you'll find that you might see symptoms of an irregular period. Your period might be missing altogether for a while now. You might have hair growth, weight gain, acne. There's definitely been, ongoing research about gynecological cancers in women with PCOS versus those without it. So this is a question that's not only on the minds of women with PCOS, but researchers who are trying to make the science more robust to support us in fully understanding the correlation between the two. So they've been exploring that association between PCOS and gynecological cancers, including endometrial, ovarian, and breast cancer. So although a lot of women with PCOS do have polycystic ovaries, and I can understand why you might be concerned, because a lot of women do end up with higher CA125 levels, which is a protein marker, potential protein marker of ovarian cancer. And so we don't want to pinpoint just the ovaries, because remember, PCOS is affecting the entire body. Even though it's called PCOS and a lot of women have polycystic ovaries, it's in a lot of ways a misnomer. I kind of wish it was called like anovulation androgen excess disorder or something like that. And the medical community has been in discussion about changing the name because of the fact that there are so many women that have PCOS and do not have polycystic ovaries. So you can see how it really makes you focus almost on the wrong thing, or put your scope too small when you need to be branching out to look at the entire picture of your health. So while the risk of ovarian and breast cancer does not appear to be increased in women with PCOS, there is evidence suggesting a higher risk of endometrial cancer. And that's of great concern, because that's a road to potential hysterectomy. That is a road to having early onset menopause, developing endometrial cancer in its later stages. Even if you do get a hysterectomy, there is a great chance of cancer reoccurring in the pelvic lymph nodes and in the vagina. So there is a risk, but it's more so of endometrial cancer. And one thing I want you to connect the dots with is often in PCOS, we see an imbalance of estrogen to progesterone. There's estrogen dominance, meaning in the ratio between estrogen and progesterone, even if your progesterone is low and not in optimal range, we're talking about the ratio between estrogen to progesterone in your body. That estrogen is dominating when it should not be. And this really sets us up for a myriad of potential issues, but it definitely puts us at greater risk of developing endometrial cancer. And so in some studies, there was actually reported a reduced risk of ovarian cancer in women that were genetically predicted for PCOS. So if there's been a history of it in the family, then there was lower risk of developing ovarian cancer, interestingly enough. And so these findings really help us to shed a light on the complex relationship between PCOS and cancer. Hyperandrogenism, that is the increase of male hormones. Hyperinsulinemia, that's the increase of insulin, meaning that you are insulin resistant. Unopposed estrogen action, estrogen dominance, chronic inflammation. All of these things are identified as major contributors to the increased risk of endometrial cancer in women with PCOS. And look, all of these things are associated with the root causes of PCOS and are absolutely linked to being able to holistically reverse it. So that's even more motivation for us to dig deep and treat our entire body and move beyond symptoms, move beyond just pure fat loss. We want to look at whole body health, the balancing of our hormones, body composition. We want to look at it all in order to decrease the risk of developing endometrial cancer. Of course, they're going to keep looking into factors like smoking, alcohol consumption, and family history when it comes to gynecological cancers. But there is a lot that is within our control that we need to keep our focus on in terms of our health. So, is there something that you learned that you didn't know before? Is there something that you'd like to do differently knowing this information? Because it's one thing to get this information, to learn something new about this risk of developing endometrial cancer, but it's another thing to take action, to do something different. And most of us, our tendency is to try to make those changes in our own efforts and by ourselves. Especially as women of color, we are almost trained to not ask for help when we need it, to be hyper self-sufficient and independent, when in all actuality we are designed so beautifully to be interdependent and to rely on other women. We are relationship oriented, and this is true for our healing in our bodies. So even though we know that to decrease androgens, to balance out your blood sugar, to balance out estrogen and progesterone in your body, to decrease inflammation, will all help your PCOS symptoms, will also decrease your risk of endometrial cancer. Just knowing that may not be enough to get you through the actual work of changing behaviors, of mastering habits. Often we need to be in community with other women. We need coaching. We need help. And we need consistent help. We need people that are going to show up and keep showing up as we show up. And even when we don't show up, push us to keep going. So I really want you to think about what that community looks like for you, if you have that in place, and what you're going to do with this information. It's one thing to understand it, because knowledge is power. Staying informed is power, but you have to take action. It's not enough to just learn information. And I know in certain parts of my journey with PCOS, I was on an information binge. I thought if I could just understand more, then it would make a difference. And nowadays, there's even more information available than when I was in my research phase. And we all go through it. It's a stage of change. It's called pre-contemplation, where we're really stuck on finding the information because we need all the answers to be able to do and what we need to do now. Stuck in thinking about what's going to be the best option, right? Hey, Lauren. Hey, beautiful. So just to recap for those just joining us, hello. Hey, Jazz. Hey, Tati, Julia, Nash, Chadun, Radiance, Nene. Hey, y'all. Hey. So we're talking about the question of, is there an increased risk of ovarian cancer and CA1 to 5 levels with PCOS? Does that lead to elevated levels? Yeah, to just take it. Even if you try and you take the action and you don't do as well as you thought you wanted to, you did it and you're going to learn and you keep going. We can't have like an all or nothing black and white mindset about all of this. And that's huge in my coaching program. We focus a lot on incremental change. Master one major habit that's going to make the biggest difference, and then work on mastering another one. And I don't recommend changing up your goals until you master the first one that you've set. So if we know, like, number one, we just need to get the androgen levels down in our bodies. This is going to decrease the facial hair. This is going to help our periods begin to balance out. For some of my clients, just doing that alone brings back a period that's been gone for months. Just doing that. So that's like number one priority, decrease the androgen levels. So then you have to say, if I know that that's like top priority for me, what are the habits that are going to help me do that? I can depend on natural remedies. I can depend on food to help me do that. You can have spearmint tea twice a day. If that's not working, add in some saw palmetto tincture and be consistent, and you'll see that levels start to improve. Your period will come back, sometimes with just that one change. But again, knowing what we got to do is not the same thing as following through week after week after week doing these same habits. Consistency is often boring. I mean, mind-numbingly boring, where you have to do the same thing every day and week to week. We are humans. We like variety. We're like, variety is the spice of life. And so it can be hard to stay the course and stay consistent. That's why we need people around us to hold us accountable and love on us and love us through the difficulty. Yes, I think it's always a great starting place. Just reduce your androgens, period. And then food. Food is going to help you. Even just adding in 2 tablespoons of flaxseed per day into your diet will help lower androgens. And when you're working on food and you feel like you got your androgens where they need to be, now let's start focusing on your blood sugar levels. But what's so interesting in helping women with PCOS is a lot of us are so hurt. A lot of us have dealt with trauma. we went through things in our childhood, or even through the trauma of being diagnosed and dealing with the fallout of PCOS in a teen or a early adulthood body, and how it affects our development. That can feel traumatic. And what we start to do, because it can feel very painful to pay attention to our own needs and what we need to heal, especially the emotional weight that we're carrying that we need to let go of, that we will actually hyper focus on other people and their pain and what they need, to the point that we're just depleted. We have nothing to give, and we're frustrated, even maybe resentful to the people that we have poured out to. So if you're identifying in that emotional pattern, know that you're not alone. In traditional Chinese medicine, they look at insulin resistance as a symptom of the person who has over-nurtured and poured out too much to other people. And insulin resistance is happening in 70 to 80% of women with PCOS. And even if it's not your dominant subtype, you still might have a measure of insulin resistance going on. So I think it's worth it for us all to kind of take a moment and reflect. Where am I giving to other people when I should be giving to myself? And let me tell you, you're not alone in that. I have to work with myself on that, because I still got me to take care of, just like you do, right? And I have to really come back, reel in all the love and the care that I have for others, and redirect it back at me, and give myself the healing and the energy and the love and the affection. So if you find that you're dealing with that, I want you to put one hand over heart, one hand over your womb, and just take a deep breath and give yourself a moment to just reconnect with your body and recommit to taking care of yourself. Take back some of your energy that you've been spreading out to others and give it to yourself. Give yourself at least enough energy to master that one habit. Just one. If you can't do nothing else, drink your spearmint tea. Is this resonating? Are y'all hearing me? Because y'all quiet. Y'all there? Let me know. Speak up, y'all. Is this resonating for y'all? Do you find yourself in this over-giving, over-functioning dynamic with other people? Do you find that you're running yourself to the point of depletion? Talk to me and let me know in the chat. So, I want to move forward with that question, from that question. If you have any more questions about gynecological cancers and the risk of developing them with PCOS, please drop the question below and I will make sure to answer your question myself. So the question number 2 is, what are the early signs of PCOS? So we kind of talked about them, but let's go over it again. It's menstrual irregularities. So you might see missing periods, or they're not coming regularly. You might see hair growth, unwanted hair growth along the face, on the body, acne, especially cystic acne, male pattern baldness, hair thinning, that sort of thing. Let's see. So Lauren said, I wouldn't say depletion, but I would say that I do have a feeling of some sort. Yeah, it's worth it to self-reflect, to see, like, do I give out when I should be pointing that energy back to myself? And then, of course, when you get an ultrasound, if you're at the doctor's office, they're going to see possibly that you have cystic ovaries. And really, this is just multiple small follicles in the ovaries. Wherein when you're ovulating, you have multiple follicles that present on the ovary, but when you release an egg, it should send a signal for those other follicles to stop developing. But if you never ovulate, then they will continue to develop and you'll have multiple follicles showing up on the ovary. You definitely want to make sure that you're getting blood work done. You want to make sure that it's actually PCOS. Because to actually make it PCOS, you have to meet at least 2 out of the 3 criteria: hypoandrogenism, ovarian cyst, and menstrual irregularities. That's why PCOS cannot be diagnosed with an ultrasound by itself. So if your provider diagnosed you just based on the ultrasound and polycystic ovaries, please go back and have your lab work drawn, because it could also be due to other factors such as elevated prolactin. There's other reasons why you could have a cystic ovary, not just polycystic ovarian syndrome. So please do your due diligence. If you need that lab guide, DM me. I will send it to you, or you can just comment below and I'll link it for you. So that way you know what you need, what labs you need drawn. If you do not have insurance, if you're facing resistance from your healthcare provider in getting the labs that you want done, you can take authority over your health, and there is a link in that labs guide at the end of the document that will show you how to independently get your lab work done. All you do is pay a fee and they'll get your lab work done for you. So you do not have to be held back by some of the barriers that are sometimes put up for Black women with their healthcare providers, wherein sometimes they are having a hard time really listening to us. So the lab test, I would go with getting a hormonal panel done first, but in the lab guide it'll tell you the ones that are most important. Yes, then if you had lab work and an ultrasound done, that's proper. That's how it should be done to diagnose. But some women don't have that experience, unfortunately. And so I want to take a moment and just share a different chapter of my own journey with PCOS. Often I do speak about when I was first diagnosed the most. However, there was a period in my life wherein I was about 23. This was before I had my second set of children. 22. And my daughter was younger. I had reversed my insulin resistance PCOS, and I was doing fairly well. I was sprinting, swimming, doing capoeira, which is a form of martial arts. I was a very active early 20s woman. And at that time, my stress levels were not very high. I had one child to care for. I had a very great community and support system. But as soon as I decided to have another baby, I had spent that gap between children really optimizing my fertility because I knew that I wanted another baby. So when I got ready to have him, I wanted to be in a peaceful state of mind and not worry if I'd be able to get pregnant. And honestly, that's always my suggestion when I'm working with fertility clients, is to optimize your fertility. Get the lab work where it needs to be before you even start trying. Before you even start trying. Try your best to optimize everything that you can so that when you do start your process of trying to get pregnant, it can go so much easier for you, and it'll save you a lot of stress and anxiety if you approach it that way, potentially. That's how I did it, and it really worked for me. And so once I did get pregnant, I got pregnant on the first try. And my body really did well during the pregnancy. I gained about 25 pounds, which is not bad. But in my postpartum, I was not prepared for what happened to my body postpartum after that child. But it taught me some very valuable lessons. This is when the first indicators of adrenal PCOS started showing up in my body. But I did not know that there were other subtypes. So I was still treating it like insulin resistance PCOS, but these two subtypes need different types of care. So the things I was doing was no longer working for me. And so I want you to understand that you could go on a journey to reverse insulin resistance PCOS and go through something that is a stressful event on your body, whether it's birthing a baby or moving, job loss, a parent getting sick, whatever the life stressor may be. It could very well kick you into adrenal PCOS just because of how our bodies operate and our constitution. So I want you to practice what you need to do for your adrenals, even if you do not have adrenal PCOS, so that it doesn't develop. And one of the major things you have to do is tend to your stress levels. So if you measure your stress every day on a scale of 1 to 10, the goal for me personally is to keep it at like a 3 or lower as much as I can in my perceived level of stress. So in the chat, please share, what is your perceived level of stress right now on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being highest? And if it's above a 3, what can you do today to get that level down? Because you matter. And how stressed out you perceive yourself to be is the most important part. So with the subtypes, let's talk about how do you know which one you have. A big part of that is your lab work. If your lab work is showing that you have insulin resistance, that's a big indicator that that's the primary cause. If your lab work is not showing that you have insulin resistance, then you want to get testing for your cortisol levels and your inflammation levels. If your cortisol is high, most likely you have adrenal PCOS if you are showing symptoms and your insulin resistance is in check according to your lab work. If you're not showing elevated cortisol, insulin resistance is fine, it's not present, but inflammation is high, and you're dealing with inflammatory PCOS. Personally, I try to take care of as many of those root causes as possible in how I tend to my health. So I will always look at keeping my stress level down, balancing my blood sugar every day with PCOS friendly meals, and tending to my hormonal balance with syncing to my menstrual cycle and how I eat and how I move and how I rest. So those are like the top ways I take action, and of course my supplementation. Question, I perceive myself to be stressed, worried, a medium, but in reality, I don't even know why I'm stressed. That's golden, Lauren. Thank you for sharing. So women with PCOS are naturally predisposed at being more stressed out because our nervous systems are dysregulated, and most of us do have some measure of cortisol dysregulation, meaning that cortisol should be higher when we wake up in the morning to help us get alert. It should be lower at night to help us go to bed. But most of us, we have it backwards. And so for all the reasons that we talked about and how we develop PCOS means that we have a low tolerance to stress. So something that would not stress somebody else out at all could stress us out because we're more sensitive. And I was listening to this YouTube yesterday, and it was talking about how empathetic people, which many women with PCOS again are like givers, over functioning people, nurturers, empaths. We pick up on the feelings of other people. We're very sensitive, hyper focused on others' needs in general. But that also means that we're very porous. We're almost like absorb the emotions of others. And so that also plays into like our emotional capacity for stress, because we're picking up on everybody else's stuff all day. And so one thing we have to be really careful of is really protecting our emotional body, our emotional health, and not being so porous where we're taking in other people's emotions all day like they're our own. You can absolutely have empathy for another person without taking their feelings into your body to feel them. And this is such a big lesson for me because, you know, there are times in my career, even currently, where I might be coaching, 300 people at a time in a text-based format of coaching. And I don't need to take on every person's emotions to be able to coach them and have empathy for what they are going through. I can think about how it might feel and comfort them from a mental place versus a heart space, and leave the heart space for me and my children. And I really encourage y'all to practice that this week. Look at how much emotional energy you give out all day. At the end of the day, just think about it. Just think. Do a mental reflection on it. And so, Stanisha said that mine was with high cortisol levels. Yes, exactly. So the high cortisol levels, most likely you having adrenal PCOS. So you want to prioritize taking care of that stress. And see, Sanisha says that she's definitely an empath and she has high cortisol levels. Lauren said, nervous system out of whack because of so many things. I've been working myself up for no reason. I'm a Cancer. So yes. A lot of us are like this, though. Women with PCOS in general, I'm telling you, that we are more porous, we are more open, we are more sensitive. And that's not a weakness. It's definitely a strength. But we have to learn the emotional skills to be able to manage other folks' stuff and give it back. Wrap it up nicely in a package with a bow and give it back to them. So like I said in a post today, sometimes you have to be willing to shout out and cry and pray to the Creator to give you enough strength to stop hyper-focusing on other people's pain and their needs and have enough strength to focus on your own. Focus on your own needs. Focus on the parts of you that are unhealed. The parts of you that are still in pain. It could be little girl you, teenage you, younger you, that's still in emotional pain, whether you're still crying about it physically. Best believe the body holds the record of everything you have experienced emotionally, and if you have not processed it and let it out and let it go, then it's housed in the tissues of your body. And specifically with women, we hold all of that in the womb. The womb is like this repository for all of the emotions that we are still carrying. And not just our emotions, but oftentimes it gets passed down, where we're dealing with generational stuff, generational pain, all the tears that our grandmothers, our foremothers never cried. So sometimes we need to take that energy from outside of ourselves, where we're projecting it into others to help them in their path, and redirect it to ourselves to rise up to a radical level of self-care, where we are ruthlessly prioritizing ourselves so that we can have the energy we need to heal. And I can tell you how well I am doing with my body directly correlates to how well I am managing my energy, including my emotions. Nervous system regulation is one of the first steps in my framework for how I guide women in reversing PCOS. Matter of fact, it's number 3 in the whole process. Number 1 is to open the heart. Lauren said, and I'm working on this. I am working on womb work and Reiki sessions because I have to release more energy and give it back because it wasn't mine to bring with me. Exactly. We all got to work on it. We do, including me, because I love people. And I was raised to care, and I do. But I'm also in my healing journey too. And so we got to stay consistent. If we want to live our purpose in the world, for me, PCOS reversal is deeper than just let's regulate your period. That's important, and I want you to be out of pain and discomfort. I want you to have balanced hormones. I want you to be happy in your own skin, at your happy, healthy weight, with the right composition of fat and muscle. I want all of that for you. But even deeper is, I want to free up the energy that is taking for you to not be well, so we can redirect that and help you push it towards what your soul is here to do. That's what's really the deepest importance for me. Because I believe we are all here and on assignment. We all have something that we're purposed to do on the planet. And I know this is part of my purpose. Working with women for PCOS reversal is absolutely a divine assignment in my life. And if I don't watch it, then I won't have the energy to fulfill and show up for my assignment. And so, like me, I know that's true for you. You got to heal and open your heart and be willing to look at where the pain is still residing, the residue of the past that's still stuck on you in your heart, and let that go, to then be ready to do the work of consistent behavior change that this requires. This is consistently showing up and being present and aware and waking up every day ready to take care of yourself. Hey Christina, welcome, welcome, welcome. Consistently waking up, present with yourself and ready to practice self-care takes opening your heart and really digging into any pain that's still sticking like residue to your heart. Number 2, after we open the heart, we want to soothe your symptoms. So yes, getting relief from your symptoms is very important. We want to do what we need to do to quickly get you out of pain and discomfort, dealing with things like brain fog, heavy bleeding, missing periods, achiness in your body, the excessive hair growth on the face and the body, and the acne. Sometimes the cystic acne will show up on the face, on the thighs, the buttocks. It can happen all over the body. The thinning of the hair. How depressing is that when we have to watch our hair thin and we have male pattern baldness? We got more hair here than we got on our edges. None of that is okay, and you don't deserve to live like that. So that's why it's important that we really set the stage to get your symptoms relieved as much as possible, as quickly as possible. And again, that starts with decreasing your androgen levels. We got to bring the androgen levels down first. Okay. And then we move into nervous system regulation. So we're soothing our symptoms and we're regulating our nervous system so we can increase our resilience to stress, so that life is not stressing us out even when there's no big stressors happening in our life. Is being a pescatarian good for PCOS? I was told not to eat red meat and pasta, but it's hard to quit. So the way that I teach nutrition, which is the next step, ironically enough, in my framework, is this. First, if you're struggling, then we don't want to do too much too fast. We want to do little as possible to help you get to your goals. So the first thing I look at is what is missing in your meal, not what to take away. Because when you try to overhaul your entire diet, really be honest with yourself. Has that worked? Because if it did, you would have already been doing it and doing it consistently if that was working. Comment in the chat. Has overhauling your diet ever really worked for you? Trying to change the entire thing overnight. When somebody just gave you a meal plan and said, okay, do this. Did that work for you? When you went vegan, when you became a raw foodist, when you started fasting, fasting to the bone, whatever you did. No. Why? Because it's not sustainable. So instead of looking at what you need to take out, what I want you to look at is what to put in and what to prioritize. Write the word prioritize in the chat. So we're not going to restrict, we're going to prioritize. Write the word prioritize in the chat. What are we prioritizing? First, we're prioritizing protein. I don't care where you get your protein from, honestly. You can get your protein from an animal or a plant. Just get enough protein. How do you know how much protein to get, Yasmin? Go to Google, put in protein calculator. Open up a second tab and put in adjusted weight. Calculate your adjusted weight. Then use that weight to calculate your protein intake. And that will be based on your current activity level, your height, and that's usually as much information as you'll need. But bare minimum, you should be getting at least 30 grams of protein per meal, eating 3 meals per day. When you are stressed out, you're stressed the hell out, like many women with PCOS are because we're predisposed to stress, do not skip meals. Cortisol is already high, and skipping meals is going to make that worse. So what are we prioritizing? Protein. Get enough protein. We're prioritizing regular meals. Eat regularly. This is going to help keep your blood sugar stable. At every meal, you should also have a healthy fat. What does that look like? Butter, grass-fed butter, ghee, especially ghee. Ghee is amazing. Ghee. That's good. That's good. You can use if your adjusted weight is your current weight, then use that to calculate your protein. That's fine. Some people, theirs is not the same, and that's okay though. So prioritize regular meals, prioritize your protein intake. And you want healthy fats at each meal. Grass-fed butter, ghee, beef tallow, olive oil, coconut oil. Those are all great choices. And if you understand healthy fats better, just write a comment and I'll come back and I'll share a list that I have of what are healthy fats. And then you want fiber. At every meal, have at least 1 to 2 servings of vegetables. Bare minimum, we want 3 to 5 servings of vegetables every day. A serving is a half a cup cooked, 1 cup raw, or 2 to 3 cups by volume of leafy salad greens. Okay, I got you, Stanisha. I'll definitely drop that healthy fats list for you. And so if you think about what is missing from my plate, do I have adequate protein? Do I have a source of healthy fat? Have I put some non-starchy vegetables on this plate? Have I had a solid 3 meals today? You can even add in a snack if you're still hungry. All of this is going to help you versus looking at what to take away. And all of this is going to be way more sustainable versus restriction or majorly overhauling your diet. Once you have your nutrition in place, then you want to prioritize your movement and moving every day. You start off with walking. You want to get up to maybe 8 to 10K steps a day. If you can't do that much, work your way up. You start out, maybe you're only doing 1,000 steps. Well, tomorrow, add another 100. Slowly increase your steps every day. And then you want to layer on some sort of stress relieving workout, like a yoga, Tai Chi, swimming, whatever you do that will keep your stress levels down even more. Once you have that mastered, then you do some sort of strengthening exercise that's going to help you then convert fat to muscle and recompose your body. So that looks like Pilates or strength training, body weight exercises, things like that. And choose what's most accessible and easiest for you. What's most accessible and easiest for you. What this is going to accomplish is this. You need adequate nutrition to heal hormonal imbalances. Undereating works against healing the root causes of PCOS. You need adequate protein to build muscle and to heal your structure. So then when we start adding on the strengthening exercise and it's matched with adequate protein, now you're going to get strong, you're going to lean out, you're going to have those round curves that we love as black women. You're going to feel strong. You're going to be mentally well. And never in this process did you have to restrict or do anything crazy. So personally, I'm at a place where I'm so focused on my strength. I do not get on the scale. I focus on developing my healthy habits, and I train 3 to 4 times a week with a trainer, and I am focused doing my planks and my squats, honey, and my donkey kicks around here. I am focused on being strong. Building up your physical strength will increase your will to stay consistent in other areas of your life, including your other healthy habits with PCOS. Your will to live, your will to execute and follow through on things is increased when you increase your physical strength, and it is key to the long-term reversal of PCOS. When we trade out fat for muscle, we have what's called more metabolic tissue. Muscle is metabolic tissue. It helps us to have balanced hormones. And when we do it this way, for instance, with body weight exercises, Pilates, even with heavy lifting, it takes a lot to bulk. What we're going to do is tone, gain muscle density, get leaner and stronger. And it not just makes you stronger physically, but it increases your will to take action. And just remember, this is all about being able to live out what you're here to do on the planet fully. Whatever is in your heart and your soul to do on the earth. To have the energy to do it. To be radiant and radiating out purpose. So, where are you in that process? Are you working on opening your heart? Do you need to focus on soothing your symptoms? Do you have some healing to do from childhood, your teen years? Are you regulating your nervous system and increasing your resilience to stress? Are you mastering your nutrition? Are you focused on your exercise and your movement? And when we have all of these in place, then we can focus on what does the long-term journey of keeping all of this in place look like. And that means you need to master change. Because change happens in a spiral, in a loop, where you pre-contemplate something like, yeah, I kind of feel like I need to make a change. Things are uncomfortable. And you begin to contemplate, where you're actually looking into, well, how could I make that change? That's probably how you ended up here, where you were searching, how can I reverse, what can I do about PCOS? And then you get ready to take action. And you're actually ready to take action. You take action. But every time you take action and you consistently start to master a habit, as human beings, we will lapse in that habit. We will. It's a natural part of the stages of behavior change. So you need to begin your journey knowing that you're going to lapse from it, and understand that it can be a lapse that can just be temporary, where you're learning a valuable lesson and understanding exactly what you need to stay consistent. For me, consistency is over time. How much did you do what you needed to do over a month, over 3 months, a quarter, over a year's time? Because if we just looking at day-to-day stuff, we will become discouraged, and it's not realistic. It is not realistic. But then after relapse, after lapsing, we go right back to pre-contemplation and contemplation. It happens in a loop. So when you lapse, you need to sit down with yourself that evening and figure out why. Was it lack of planning? Was it a trigger from your environment? Was it an emotional trigger that caused you to dissociate and make a food choice from a place of emotion versus logic? What was it? You got, after a lapse, you need to then contemplate what happened and learn from it and execute on it with the very next chance you get to do so, and let tomorrow be a new day. That is consistency. You have to master behavior change, and you have to master your mindset. That black and white mindset will not serve you. It has no room here. Pushing yourself, shaming yourself, negatively talking to yourself to achieve change doesn't work. The mindset is also radical self-love and care. To love you right now, whether you got hairs popping out your chin, on your chest, whether you got a period or not right now, whether the scale is tipping 300 or 250. It don't matter. You still got to love you right now. And you need a community to do this within. Like Lauren said, I don't even be eating 3 times a day. I'd be one for real and snacking the rest, fruits, mini snacks, and other things. So when you're having fruit, I want you to pair it with some fat and protein. So for example, let's say you like berries. Have some Greek yogurt, put some walnuts on there, which is also going to take your androgen levels down. You could even do a small drizzle of some honey on that thing. Maybe a little monk fruit to sweeten it. Or add some soaked chia seeds or some hemp seeds on there. And your berries, either on top or on the side. So your snacks need to have protein. And yes, all of the above. This is why it's a framework. The framework is how you think about the foundation or the structure of a house. This is the house of PCOS reversal in your body. And we don't see a house get put up overnight. And if we did, we would be so concerned about living in that structure because it would be flimsy. So you need the framework of how to do this holistically, realistically, step by step, in love. in patience and grace, in positivity, in self-compassion, and not doing it in isolation. Do not try to do all this by yourself, because like Stengia said, the struggle is real. The struggle is real. That's why all of this has been created, because I went through all of this by myself and realized that if I wanted to help other women achieve this in less time than it took me to do it, then we need to be surrounded by other women that look like us, are on the same mission, the same focus, and are ready to do this work, are ready to show up and lean into sisterhood together. So yes, this group is a part of that. But as we close out, if you have any other questions, leave them in the chat. I would love to hear any other thoughts that come up for you. If you're watching a replay, let me know in the chat as well so I can say hello. That is why I created Sacred Rising. Sacred Rising is a holistic PCOS reversal program. So it has a full course to guide you through. It's like a PCOS reversal university. Like, bring your notes. Need a pen and some paper. It is a community, but it's also a sisterhood. And I'm building micro communities within the larger community so that you can be paired up with women that are dealing with the exact same thing you're dealing with. So we'll have micro communities for women with menopause, micro communities like the one I mentioned at the beginning, for women who are wanting to heal their period or trying to conceive. So we are still building even more layers of sisterhood into this community. But there's also coaching, because behavior change again happens in stages, and you need coaching through those different stages to help you when you lapse, help you get back into thinking about what you can learn from that, how to apply what you learn to stay the course and not give up even when life is blowing winds and challenging you. You need coaching to stay in the game. But there's also holistic health assessments, because we want to understand your lab work. We look at your lab work together. We look over all your levels and where they're at, and that way we can put together your targeted supplement plan so you know what to take. And we're not, again, we ain't throwing spaghetti at the wall trying to figure out what works. We want you to be on the supplements that are working for you based on your body and what your lab work is saying. And I look at your pH, your analysis, your blood pressure, and I give you a holistic assessment as well of where to focus your efforts in your healing journey. And the last part of that is we're meeting every 2 weeks. Because again, you need community and you need accountability and you need a space to show up to where you're not doing this alone. So that's Sacred Rising. If you need deeper connection, deeper work, you want help with implementing this framework we talked about today, send me a message. Just DM me. I can share all the details of the program with you. And if you think it's a good fit, we can schedule a phone call and talk more together. So I'll be here next week. Make sure you are submitting your questions so I can answer them. And for those that had a question about reducing period pain and heavy bleeding, I'll leave a link to my workshop. It's called the 3-day Painless Period workshop. So you can check that out. I also have a workshop called Pleasurable Periods Like a Goddess that will also help you if you're having painful periods. So I'll leave those links for you. And whatever you'd like me to talk more about next week, please leave the questions below. I'm sending you all so much love, and I'll see you next week.